Welcome to Face2Face. This is a show about change and about what's next. It's a show that wants to ask questions, peel back the layers of our average everyday experience, and go beyond scratching the surface. We interview amazing people with incredible ideas and stories who have done wild, weird, and wonderful things. Remember that imagination shared creates collaboration, and collaboration creates community, and community inspires social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face2Face. So my next interview today is with a filmmaker, a documentarian who has made a film about bugs, about insects, about what's referred to in the film as not legally recognized food. Andreas Johnsen. We had a great conversation. He was in Copenhagen at the time and at the Danish Film Institute, about to go into answer questions from the audience. And so we talk about colonialism, we talk about food, and we talk about cricket powder and sustainability, and how he sort of stepped into making this film, and why there's actually a sense of humor that's connected to it all. And I think you know you're going to have to see the film, and I hope you're going to enjoy the interview, and I trust that will be enough to get you to dig a little bit deeper, and no pun intended for those of you who have seen the film. So I do hope you're going to enjoy this, and check it out. It's going to be on Netflix soon. It's going to be a theatrical release coming up in 2017. Andreas Johnsen coming up in a few moments. Don't forget davidpecklive.com for more interviews. Coming up on my 300th interview, don't forget Real Change is Incremental, is available on my site as well, and information about my public speaking, and Rabble.ca for more information about interviews. Check it out there. And here we go, Andreas Johnsen. Thanks for listening. Well, welcome to Face2Face. We're joined by a very special guest today. He's a filmmaker and a director of a film called Bugs, and hopefully we already have your attention. Andreas Johnsen is here today, all the way from Copenhagen. Andreas, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You are certainly welcome.
So can you tell us?
I'm happy to be with you, David.
Thank you for your time. So before we get into the movie, I'm kind of excited for you. I can hear a little bit of noise in the background. Tell our audience where you are today and what's going on.
Yeah, I'm at a cinema in the center of Copenhagen, and I just let about 150 people into the cinema, and they're actually watching the film right now. The film already premiered in September in 50 cinemas all over the country here, but they're still popping up screenings like every week. So we have a screening tonight, and in about an hour I will have to go in and do the Q&A, and we also have tastings of different small starters that my friends from Nordic Food Lab provided with insects.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So a few special surprises in for your guests tonight.
Yes.
That's so just, and I'm sure we'll come back to this, and when we post online, we'll put some information about the film and the website and so on. But you're going to a wide theatrical release in April of this year in the U.S. and Canada. Can we say North America? And then you're going to a Netflix release in June. That's
correct.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Andreas, before we roll, congratulations on a thoughtful, interesting, fun, disturbing film.
Thank you. I mean, I always try to make my films with a fair amount of humor. I mean, most of my films are quite serious topics, but, you know, our everyday lives are full of humor and mistakes and misunderstandings and stuff like that, and I try to also put that into my films, so they are more humane in a way, and also so that, you know, I want people to be entertained at the same time as they are maybe being provoked to think differently, or to be more curious about a certain subject.
So, I mean, you're pretty black and white about what this film is about in the title, bugs.
Yes,
But really, Andreas, the reality is that this is just very much a surface layer. I mean, this film is about so much more than that, it seems to me. I mean, we're talking about crossing cultures. We're talking about, understanding the way other people live in the world and what other people do. I mean, this to me is a movie about our neighbors in a sense and
yeah, totally.
and
It's
yeah.
about acceptance and respect, and also very political about sustainability and what we are doing to ourselves and to the planet.
So would you say then that the bugs, in a sense, the insects, this idea of finding a more sustainable food source through taste is kind of one level, but there's even a deeper level to the film. This is really about sustainability going forward. It's about the environment. It's about climate as well.
Definitely. I mean, the box, I mean, it was kind of like a coincidence that I got into making this film. I knew of Nordic Food Lab. I knew of restaurant Norma here in Copenhagen, and many of them are my friends. And then they told me about this project that they were going to do. And for me, it sounded just like really adventurous, with eating all these delicacies around the world. It sounded just amazing. And I really needed to make a film where I was more happy and more relaxed, because the previous film I had just made was about Ai Weiwei, the Chinese artist and dissident. And I spent 3 years filming illegally in China, and it was very, very stressful. So I was completely beat when I started making this film.
Yeah,
But then when we then got into it, and maybe like after a year of filming, it really turned around. The whole project got a totally different angle and focus, and it became much more about the sustainability aspect of our whole food industry and the way we think our daily food and diet and health and all these stuff.
do you think, Andreas, is this really about perspective too? I mean, both Josh and certainly Ben want to talk a little bit more about your the stars of the film, but is this really about perspective in the sense, they make a comment at one point about how, in the 90s, the idea of people eating raw fish would have been absurd in the West,
Yeah.
and now you can get it at a local convenience store. You can buy it in an airport lobby. You can buy it pretty much anywhere that you go. In 20 more years, do you see that shift occurring, or are we a little farther away from that kind of shift at this point?
No, I mean, I actually, that's an extremely difficult question, but it is possible, because we are driven by the media, we are driven by trends. We, a lot of us, believe what we are told,
Yes.
and we don't question, and we don't have time to question everything that's put in front of us. So it could easily be that it will happen with industrialized produced insects as well, the same way that it happened with sushi. We people can be fooled with anything.
I love one of the moments in the film where I'm pretty sure it was Ben. I think they were speaking to a group of academics, or it might have been. I don't think it was when Josh was at the UN, but anyway, the comment was something like the right to good tasting, culturally appropriate, available food.
Exactly.
I mean, that to me
Yes.
is not about the insects at that point. I mean, maybe the insects are a way to get there, but what are some of the other questions we have to ask about our food systems, the way we distribute it, et cetera, et cetera?
What are some of the? Sorry.
Well, what are some of those other questions? Some of the bigger questions that you have to ask about the market, about
No,
distribution, about infrastructure. About all.
no,
There's that great line from the woman in Kenya, where she said something about how not all Westerners have the right answers.
Yeah, not all what the Westerners do is good.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, she's amazing, this professor in
Oh,
Kenya.
she was
But
terrific. What a delight.
it's exactly about all those things. You have to look at something, and of course the insect itself, it's very innocent, and of course it's sustainable. If it's just like in nature and it doesn't eat anything then what is waste by others and stuff like that. But if we start producing insects like in the West, and our climate is not fit to these animals can grow, you need to heat it, then you need to feed it other stuff, and you need to freeze dry it or process it in another way afterwards, and then you need to ship it. And then also the question about who is making money from this. I mean,
Right.
are we then again going to sell this, say, to Africa and Asia and exploit people there?
Well, exactly right. Because all of a sudden it becomes just about the bottom line, right? It's no.
Exactly.
It's,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and again, it's who are we to produce this and ship it and export it across the world to other people and then tell them, oh, now you can eat it, but when we came and colonized you, you could not eat it because then you had to eat what we told you, and you had to have our religion, our culture, our family values, our kind of living in a society, etc., etc. So now we are just like, okay, now we can make money of this, and then we're going back there and saying now they have to change again. It's absurd.
Hey, Andreas. So I think I took from the film that there's over Ben or Josh says at one point that there's over 1,900 edible insects
Yes.
that have been sort
Yeah.
of, I guess, codified. I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And there's
So
probably lots more.
there's probably lots more. And yet, at the beginning of the film, I'm pretty sure it was Ben who said that the food that we're preparing for you right now is not legally recognized as food. What can you talk about that a little bit?
Exactly.
Is that an
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
sure. I mean, in the beginning of the film, there's a scene where Ben and Josh, they are in a test kitchen and they are experimenting with only farmed insects. And it's from a farm in the Netherlands that are actually at that point only producing insects for animal feed. But they made this special tasting dinner for specially invited people, and and soon after we did this filming, actually, it was allowed by legislation to sell this as for human food as well. But at the time, there was nobody who had done and served food with these products.
And is that
And I mean, I guess I mean, now it's a year. The film actually was finished a year ago. I stopped filming about a year ago, and a lot has happened with the legislation in Europe, and more factories are coming up where they're producing insects and selling it in supermarkets and for restaurants, etc.
when I first mentioned to a professor, a friend of mine at the University of Guelph here, I saw him before Christmas, that I would be talking to you in the new year. He held up his smoothie that he was drinking, and he said that he had fortified it with cricket powder.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What are the odds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it is getting out there. But tell me, I mean, wasn't Ben in the film kind of pushing back? Ben and Josh both sort of pushing back against that idea that we just want to use insects to fortify food. I mean, isn't this? I mean, this is a whole other level that the film works on, to me, which makes it so brilliant. I mean, this is about taste. This is about, we want people to know that this is a way to survive, to live, to enjoy life. That
Exactly,
these insects
exactly.
actually
It's
are
a way
tasty.
of also respecting the food you're eating and respecting the animal.
Right, exactly.
And don't just crush it and hide it and camouflage it in something and sell it as some kind of enhancer or something.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost as if Josh and Ben were the ethic that was driving them was one entirely driven by taste.
Yeah.
and yet that's not true at all. I don't think that comes out ultimately as you make your way through the film. I mean, they're clearly concerned about a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
The Escamoli scene in Mexico. I mean, the the line from the cook, the chef. I mean, first of all, the plate looks. I mean, it looks astounding. The presentation, the food, it looks utterly delicious. And he says, what does he say? We don't see them as insects. We see them as food.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we experienced everywhere we went around to do our field work. The locals, when we asked them, does anybody eat insects around here? What kind of insects can we eat around here? And they were all like, no, we don't eat insects. That's like, that's like disgusting, or we could never eat insects, because they don't consider the insects that they eat as insects. They consider it as part of their everyday diet and tradition, and for them insects is something that's really annoying, something that's a pest, something that's stings them or is irritating in some way. So many would actually say, even though they factually were eating many kinds of insects, they would say, no, we don't eat insects. And then we, of course, then we talk to them, and then we, okay, like that's your definition, and that's our definition, and so on.
Does that have something to do with success, Andreas? That people in certain cultures, would be looked down upon if they ate insects. They're of a lower culture. They're of a lower, you know what I mean? Economic.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, I don't think so. And actually, in many places in East Africa where we were, they have taken it back, the tradition in the capitals, in the main cities of Kenya and Uganda, to eat insects as they did in the countryside generations ago, and now they are proudly eating it. And there's a big, you could actually even say local industry around insects in these countries, where they gather them in the countryside, and then they are quickly transported to the capitals and to the main cities, and they are sold fresh, still alive. And that's also the young people. They love it. They eat it with pleasure.
With pleasure. Delicacies. I've done a fair bit of traveling through Southeast Asia, and I've certainly seen from locusts to cockroaches that have pistachio nuts deep fried inside of them, to deep fried tarantulas. I mean, enjoyed and really enjoyed. I have to be honest with you. I haven't crossed that line yet, but again, I think largely it's a matter of perception. What about you, Andreas?
What do you mean you didn't taste it?
I have tasted some things, but I have not. No, I haven't reached into. I haven't gone to the deep fried tarantula yet. That's.
But tarantula is not an insect.
Oh, okay, right.
That's a spider, right?
That's a spider. It is.
Yeah, that's not an insect.
It's a big spider.
I mean, you could call it a bug, but it's not. It's not an insect.
It's not an insect, right? It has an exoskeleton.
Yeah.
What about you? How much did you get into the actual tasting of the food when you were making the film?
Well, I tasted everything.
You did, eh?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I love food, and I also have a restaurant with my partner here in Copenhagen. I've been running that for 10 years. And actually, my first job was at a very young age, when I was 13, at a really nice restaurant here in Copenhagen as a waiter. So I've been in the industry for many years, and I love traveling. I love eating different foods and enjoying food with other cultures, with other people. And of course, that was a big part of it also for me to experience that. And also, if I'm filming it, it's nice for me to try it also, so I know what my characters are trying.
Sure.
The only times I didn't try it was if we only got, like, say, two pieces of a certain insect that we were hunting.
Right.
Because then Joshua and Ben would take it themselves, of course.
Right.
But I'm into everything, and for me, I know I don't have a barrier really.
Right. So you've figured out how to step inside.
Yeah, but I understand, of course, why we have it.
Yeah, of course. And I think
Yeah,
it's very much like climate, environment, these types of issues that I'm old enough that I was not raised thinking about the environment. My children are thinking about the environment in a
yeah,
way that we need to be hopeful about, that change is possible, that we can start eating insects in a way that's tasty and sustainable and sensible. It seems to
yeah,
me that it's a future. Near the beginning of the film, I think you're in an airplane kitchen, test kitchen,
yeah,
and somebody says that, hey, we're tasting a meal that could be the airplane meal of the 22nd century.
yeah.
Do you think we're that far away from back to that earlier question I asked you? Are we years away from this becoming commonplace?
I mean, it is commonplace. I mean, it is you
Right.
in the Netherlands. There's a certain fast food chain that has a hamburger that's made with I forgot if it's mealworms or cricket flour patty instead of meat.
Okay.
And in there's the largest supermarket chain in the Netherlands as well. They have as a staple food they have insects frozen in a small package that you can buy and cook up in your house.
So
So we are not far away, but I mean, hopefully with my film and other people and the whole debate around it, we if we are going to start doing this, we should just make sure that it's done with respect for the animals, for other cultures, and for the environment, of course.
yeah, you end the film with Josh appearing before a small group of people at the UN. It looked like somewhere in Geneva, not exactly sure, but he got the floor, and you cross cut a series of faces that to me looked pretty indifferent in the room. Is that what you were trying to get across? This sense that maybe the dialogue is not where it needs to be yet. That we need to start having a more open conversation about sustainability, even within an organization like the UN.
Yes, I mean, you are absolutely correct. It was in Geneva at the UN headquarters, and I was really, hoping for this scene to be like Josh going there, giving his message to like the world,
Sure.
and him having a huge applaud and people listening to him and discussing with him, but it didn't happen, and I was so shocked. I was so shocked that they were so passive. They were totally indifferent. They didn't care. And then there was like this silly after party
Right.
afterwards where there were even more people attending than at the actual conference that was taking place. So it was just like so absurd. This is serious stuff, and even the people at the UN don't want to listen. The press didn't want to ask any questions. There was nobody attending. It was ridiculous, and so it was kind of depressing actually. It was very
Yeah.
sad.
It is very sad. I think having worked in development for so many years, I think one of the things that's really difficult is maintaining a sense of hope and a desire for a better future, because it's very easy to become complacent. And the way you set that scene up, I don't think it's too far from the truth. Like you say, it's a bit ridiculous. It's absurd. But they're there. You know what, Andreas? They're there for the free food and the entertainment.
Yeah, and a glass of wine afterwards.
And I know. It sounds
Yeah.
pretty cynical, but sadly, in a lot of cases, it is true. Why do you think that is? Have we got the wrong people in those positions? Was it like why were they even there in the first place?
I mean, that's probably a very long discussion, David, but
It
it
is.
is, it is, it is, as I said before, also like we as human beings, we are easy to trick. Often we take the easy way
Yes.
out of
Yes.
something, and also, free food, free wine, it's on. That nothing beats that apparently.
Yes.
So
Nothing. Yeah.
it's just one of the characteristics of the human race, and yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes it's just depressing.
It is depressing. Well, I think what you've made is an incredible film and an entertaining film. I think it's gonna have a huge impact, Andreas. What is next for you guys with a theatrical release over here, and then going to Netflix? Have you got a bit of a tour planned, or what's up?
I mean, I think it's been just insanely busy, but my distributor in the US is taking care of planning all that, and yeah, I will most likely come, and also I know that Josh will be coming over, and possibly others from the cast will be joining also. And then we have also a release in Japan end of May, and yeah, we just continue, and everywhere we go, we like to have debates. We like to talk to the press, TV, radio, whatever's there, so we can get as much attention as possible, of course, on this subject.
And has the reception been pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the one to say that, but it's been overwhelming. It's very successful.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Also, I should say that actually Nordic Food Lab is releasing a huge book that comes out in the beginning of, I think, 1st of May on Phaidon.
Okay.
Very well respected publishing house.
Yes, indeed.
And it has, all the stories of the fieldwork, recipes, pictures, all kinds of stuff that Ben and Josh and Roberto has been gathering during the field.
And so for those who haven't seen it, so Ben left the production, Josh is going on to do a PhD, and Roberto is still working at Nordic Food Lab, I understand.
Exactly. He's Roberto, the last guy who came in after Ben all of a sudden leaves the film. He's still running the position as head chef at Nordic Food Lab.
That's cool. And Josh is going on to do a PhD, is he not?
Yeah, he's in Cambridge in the UK, and Ben has opened up a kind of similar thing to Nordic Food Lab in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
But besides being like a lab and an event place, it's also a restaurant. And I've been there a few times. It's great. You should all go.
Excellent. Excellent. What, do you remember the name of the restaurant?
Edinburgh Food Studio.
Edinburgh Food Studio. Excellent. Well,
Yes.
listen. And what about you, Andreas? What's next for you? Are you going to take some R&R?
I mean, I'm currently working on 5 different films. It's a little bit hectic at the moment.
I would say so.
Yeah, but sometimes if I have an idea and something I want to follow, I can't help it and I just start shooting, and that's like an advantage and disadvantage because I'm filming everything myself. So there's like no excuse of not going out any time of the day or night and just film with somebody.
Right.
But one of the films I can tell you about, it's about Torben Ulrich, the father of Lars Ulrich, the drummer in Metallica.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of a very different film than than Bugs, but I really love this guy. He's 88 years old now, and he lives in San Francisco.
Amazing.
And he used to be a professional tennis player and really on top international level, but he's also a great artist. He writes poetry and he's doing paintings. He's a musician. He releases albums and does concerts, and he's really it's so inspiring to be with him. So I've been filming with him actually for a couple of years now.
Oh, that's amazing. What I love about documentary and documentary filmmakers and artists like yourself is just what is it that drives you to tell a story like that? And what's so remarkable for people who watch these films is there's always a story. There's always a lesson to be learned. It's a remarkable medium. And congratulations again, Andreas, on a great film.
Thank
Bugs, you. And I wish you well with your next 5 projects. That's pretty daunting. And hey, good luck with the Q&A after the showing this evening.
Yeah.
You're at the Danish Film Institute, right?
That's correct. They have a very beautiful high quality cinema here, right in the center of Copenhagen.
That's amazing.
So it's really good.
Amazing. Good for you. Congratulations. Our guest today on
Thank you so much, David.
Oh, you're welcome. Andreas Johnsen. The film is Bugs. Look for it soon. Coming soon to Netflix and a theater near you. Thanks, Andreas.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.